None of the Gospels were written by eyewitnesses. And this is a fair point. I cannot prove to you that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the people who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But just because I can't prove it doesn't mean that there's not evidence for it. Firstly, we have a work that's called Against Heresies by St. Irenaeus that dates back to about 180 AD. And in this document, it talks about the 4 Gospels that we have, written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as well as many other New Testament books. And this document shows us that within 150 years from Jesus' death, people were reading Gospels by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And that's pretty significant. That's a relatively short time for ancient history. But not only that, if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John weren't actually the people who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, why would the early church fathers use the names Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? I mean, I understand Matthew and John, those were apostles. Those had authoritative names. But Mark and Luke were absolute nobodies. So if the early church fathers were going to lie about who wrote the Gospels, why wouldn't they choose Peter or Philip or Thomas or Mary Magdalene? Why would they choose Mark and Luke, 2 people with no authoritative names? And also, give me a motivation on why the early church fathers would lie. They aren't going to lie just for the fun of it, and they certainly didn't have any money or power to gain. So please give me a motive. Why would these early church fathers lie about who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Comment down below.